For this week's challenges, we were to use some kind of sensor and a motor in our project. So I started out and I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. I hadn't used any sensors in my projects yet. So I started out just experimenting with some of the sensors. So first I used the sound sensor, then I used the tilt ball switch. I got both of those to work fairly easily on their own. And then I went back and got my 3 6-volt motor to work. But then the soldering came undone and the wires came unattached. So I had to go over to my servo motor. So here's the servo motor. This was the first time I had used this one. I was able to use the other motor in my projects from last week, but the servo motor only rotates 180 degrees. So then I decided to use the ultrasonic sensor to control the servo. So I honestly had zero idea how to combine these two things without some help. So this is the first time I've ever used C++. I'm still really unsure with it. I'm also super unsure with the circuitry also. That was one of my least favorite things in school to try to figure out. It just doesn't click in my brain very well. So I did use Google for some assistance, which I have linked in my blog. But the ultrasonic sensor sends out a signal and then it calculates the time that it took that signal to return and then calculates the distance. And then that distance determines if it's in a certain parameter, if the servo rotates. So you can see here, I'm moving a pin closer and then it goes from 1 rotation to 2 rotations as I got closer. And then when I back off, it gets 2 rotations and then it'll go to 1 rotation and then to none. So the most difficult part I had was figuring out how to combine the sensor and the motor. I could do each individually fine on its own, but I could not figure out how to get one to control the other. So I had to turn to Google to see what someone else had done to get some help. And once I had done it, it kind of made sense. The code did, but it still didn't make sense. These things aren't really clicking in my brain very well, but I was able to do it, um, even with the other motor breaking.